Welcome to Tune Fever, baby.
Sup, everybody? Wonder what we're going to be talking about today. Well, if you read the title of this video, you'll know that we're talking about black metal, which is a subgenre of metal. And now let's talk about what makes it unique. So, we have some black metal distinctives here and some pictures, some images. So the first thing on the list is Satan, paganism, and anti-Christian ideologies. These are things that fueled a lot of the music and, lyrically, but also like in the musical choices that they make. As one example, quickly, paganism often involves kind of the folk cultures of several native countries of black metal bands. And so what they would do is they would kind of incorporate the traditional folk music, oftentimes, associated with paganism in a particular area, into their compositions. And that gets pretty interesting. Uh, Next on the list is tremolo picking. It's basically just a style of strumming your guitar really, really fast on particular notes, usually rather low. Um, and it's hugely popular in black metal. Um, Next, we have shrieking vocals, kind of a distinctive vocal style here, kind of high pitch and shrieking. As opposed to something like the death metal low growl or pig squeal sound. Next up, we have lo-fi recordings and DIY. As if black metal wasn't already kind of niche already with its core fans. They didn't exactly help that because they kind of record on potato sometimes, not all the time though. But yeah, core black metal fans, they're really, really into the sound of the lo-fi recordings. So that's kind of something that you'll find a lot as you get into black metal. Of course, I have corpse paint there, which you'll see some pictures of people donning the corpse paint. Likely some LARPers. These guys don't seem like true Norwegians, but could be wrong. Just found them on Google.com/images. Next up, we have, of course, Norway. And a lot of people like to talk about black metal in two waves. There was, or in terms of its like beginnings. There was kind of the first wave that kind of came out of the new wave of British heavy metal, with a band like Venom, which we will get to. And a lot of those bands, they kind of inspired the sound of what would become second wave black metal, which is a lot of times from Norway, actually. And so there's a lot about Norway, and a lot of musicians from Norway as you're getting into black metal. That's just one of the sort of hubs of the thing. And next up we have atmosphere. And this is something that a lot of people really love about black metal. And in fact, another subgenre within black metal called atmospheric black metal kind of developed out of the atmosphere of black metal. Of course, black metal has a lot of internal subgenres. And I'll make a future video about subgenres within black metal, but this is kind of just like black metal. And I'll cover some stuff from first wave and second wave both here. But yeah, atmosphere in particular, that's something a lot of people really like about black metal, something I really like. I think it's really cool. And sometimes it'll use that folk instrumentation, or sometimes it will be like a scary organ, or sometimes it will just be like rain or like sounds in a forest or something, and wind and storms. So the atmosphere of it is pretty cool. You'll find a lot of that as you're listening to a lot of black metal albums. And then wild history, once again, as though the Satan, paganism, anti-Christian stuff and the shrieking vocals and the lo-fi recordings and the corpse paint weren't enough to deter a bunch of normies. They have a pretty interesting history. There's several black metal bands that were involved with some cult-like activity and some cult activity, and also some, church burnings that are pretty famous. There's also some bands that are kind of associated with neo-Nazi kind of ideologies. And so, there's you know, there's some there's some deplorables involved. Some people, um, you know, God love them, you know, but they don't do very good things in their life. Next up, we have unreadable band names, just to add on to the list of things that push normal people out of getting into the genre. And you'll notice last time we talked about thrash, a lot of that's kind of more commercial. Black metal is about the opposite of commercial. It's got a really core following, and something about black metal is that there are definitely kind of groups of fans, and some of them are like full on Norwegian black metal defines everything about who they are. And then there's people like me who I casually but also seriously enjoy the subgenre here. So yeah, that'll about cover this. And I wanted to show kind of an example and some funny pictures I saw of like unreadable band names. So a lot of these are jokes, but then you'll see these two in the top middle. The one that's more legible says Dark Throne, which is a great black metal band, and we'll get to them. And then the other one here that just looks like an absolute mess, and it really does kind of look like some of these jokes that you see around. So it's that one right there. Actually, that's the name of that band, and somehow they incorporated that into that drawing. So there we go. And actually, this is an example one time of a black metal album cover that I made as a joke. You'll probably be able to read that a bit easier than the other ones because I'm not good at designing black metal logos. But if you can't read it, then that's probably a good thing because this is black metal. But it's nothing that bad. But yeah, I guess give it a shot. See if you can read it. You probably can. It's not really that hard. It's just a funny example that I made one time. So here's Venom. And you know, usually in these videos, I like to do the list of 6, which we will get to here, where I will go through my classics, my favorites, and the ones I think are interesting. But before I get to that, I actually want to talk about Venom. How do I go back? So yeah, I actually want to talk about Venom here. So they are the people who kind of coined the term black metal, at least famously, because they came out with their second album that was actually called Black Metal, and this is such a good album. And they definitely came out of the kind of Nwabum, the new wave of British heavy metal. They came out of that thing like a lot of metal bands, early ish, and Venom in particular, they kind of use the whole satanic thing as kind of a gimmick, you know, to kind of ultra metal. They're kind of they had like that kind of vision to go in kind of the gimmick of Satan route. And yeah, so they didn't really take it that seriously. But and of course this is first wave. But yeah, a lot of the second wave bands kind of took that and they took it seriously and didn't exactly use the whole Satan thing as a gimmick. They kind of used it, oftentimes weaponizing that, you know, against something like Christianity. You know, it was kind of an anti-Christian ideology that would come later. But Venom, I don't think they ever took it too seriously. Anyway, this album is considered early black metal, even though it doesn't sound a ton like a lot of the second wave type black metal. And yeah, black metal, it can be kind of broad, but it definitely has those distinctives like we talked about earlier. And I do think that you'll find them here, at least most of them. So we'll go on to yeah, the recommendations. So first up on our list of classics, we have this Bathory album by Bathory. And oh man, I was just listening to this today again, and geez, it is really, really awesome. Yeah, so check out this Bathory album. I mean, it's an absolute classic within the genre, but also there are kind of so many classics within the genre. This is another one of those that people would consider to be kind of first wave, right? The new wave of British heavy metal. They would consider it to be more aligned with the first wave of black metal than the second wave. But yeah, absolutely check it out. You could say it's similar-ish to like Venom, like the one we were just talking about. But it's absolute classic, and I love it. So next up, we have this Dark Throne, A Blaze in the Northern Sky, which is one of the most famous black metal albums ever, as is the Bathory, as is the Venom. They're classics for a reason. And if you're getting into black metal, which is kind of the point of these videos, is to kind of illustrate how you know, what I think you should listen to get into black metal. And I think that you should listen to some classics, and then you should listen to some of my favorites, which might be slightly deeper cuts. And then I also think that you should listen to some that are interesting for various reasons, you know? And so that's kind of what that's what I'm doing with this series. I'm basically just trying to give you a good experience getting into the subgenre of black metal, because sometimes it can be a little jarring, you know, to get into kinds of metal in general. Kind of where do you start? And then also, I have certain opinions, which here's a hot take. I don't like the band Mayhem. So there's one for free. You're not going to find Mayhem on this list, which people who are big fans of black metal, that might upset them. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Mayhem, but I won't go too far into that because I want to talk about the stuff I do like more so. Yeah, this album, Dark Throne, A Blaze in the Northern Sky, this would be considered second wave. The whole Norwegian thing. Now Dark Throne, being one word, the band name Dark Throne. They know how to make an album, and some of the song structures on this are a bit more kind of unorthodox, and that's actually kind of a thing about black metal too, and especially in the second wave of black metal, song structure goes out the window a little bit more in favor of expressing dark, evil, emotional turmoil. It's more just expressive, and that's something that I really find that I like about this album in particular. Is it just feels like such an expression. Yeah, it's sick. Next up, so this is my first favorite on the list. This is my personal favorite Emperor album, called Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk. And I bought this CD maybe a couple months ago. It was in one of my CD haul videos. Anyway, this is my favorite Emperor CD. I think I love a lot of the experimenting that they do, a lot of the more unique passages of music that are found in this album. And of course, they do a lot of things that are very kind of classic black metal. But this album, it's produced amazingly well. And so it's not one of those, it's like, it sort of sounds like it's recorded on a potato. It's like, there is a lot of intelligence going into the production of this album, and it is a really wild ride. And yeah, it's one of my favorite black metal albums ever. Okay, so the next album is called Dragged into Sunlight, called Hatred for Mankind. That's what it's called, and it's from 2011. And this band right now, Dragged into Sunlight, they are doing a lot of really interesting music. They came out with such a good album called VN. No, it's NV. It's just called NV, like the letters. And it was a collaborative album between them and another band called like something the tongue. Gosh, I don't remember. Something the tongue. It's a collaborative album between but this album in particular, it's like a modern black metal album. So it does a lot of kind of newer things, but it sounds like that old black metal. Anyway, this band, anything by them is great. They have a few projects that have come out, and they actually came out with an EP that was one track this year. I would basically just say, get into this band's whole discography. Dragged into Sunlight, really cool and interesting band. And not everything they do is as explicitly black metal as this album here that I'm recommending. Some of it kind of pushes into slightly more experimental or progressive territory. But yeah, this one it's pretty straight up black metal. I think it's their first album, but it's great. So next up, we have this album by Summon, and it's called Um, and the blood runs black. And the blood runs black. That's what it's called. And it's fairly newer as well. I think it's from like 2003-ish. But yeah, this album, very heavy, and it also has some really good production. But it does take the sound of black metal in like some kind of different directions, and they do some, yeah, it's kind of more interesting. It's not exactly straight up black metal, but it'll definitely help you kind of get the sound of black metal. I think it's a wildly good album, and just the band Summon, they have a lot of nice material that I like to listen to, but this is my favorite by them. And then next, we have the self-titled album by the band Have a Beautiful Day. I'm just kidding. It's actually this band, Tjuder, Demonic Possession. Okay, so Tjuder has some albums, and they basically are kind of furious. They're like a pretty angry black metal band. It's, yeah, I like their sound. But yeah, I just check them out. Yeah, I guess I didn't think about saying too much about them, but this is a great album. I like it. Next, here is my sources. So I also have a meme here. But yeah, check out these. That's how everything's spelled. This is just some of the stuff that I would recommend to get into them. And the thing is about black metal is, there's some stuff that I like and some stuff that I don't as much. And maybe you'll like some of the stuff that I don't like as much. And so I guess still check out the classics like Mayhem and Burzum is okay. So probably check out Burzum, particularly their earlier albums, because a lot of those kind of later Burzum albums aren't really black metal because the guy was in prison. But yeah, check out this, and definitely also check out the history of black metal. Extremely interesting. But yeah, this is just some music that I really like to listen to that fits within black metal. But I would describe myself as more of a casual fan of the subgenre. So yeah, that's what's going on. So be sure to subscribe.